Hi, welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Johnny DC.
And I'm his twin brother, Marvelous Joe.
And welcome to the first Duel episode of the year, 2022. It's going to be a cool one. The Question versus Echo, two hyper-aware characters who are really good at martial arts. I think this is going to be a good matchup. I'm a big fan of The Question.
Yeah, The Question has always been one of those badass DC characters. As a Marvel guy, I would put The Question in my top 5 DC characters. Just because he's so fucking mysterious and so cool in that film noir kind of way, you know?
Yeah.
I would really love to see a movie of The Question, because I feel like it would have heavy Dick Tracy elements to it, kind of, but more rated R, you know?
Yeah, for sure. He's pretty brutal. As is Echo, who was most recently seen in live action in the Hawkeye television series on Disney+.
Do you know if you're going with the Vic Sage version of The Question or the Renee Montoya version of Question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. We'll find out who will win in a fight later on this episode. Before that, we're going to go over the comic book movie news from the past week.
Of which, there's not much news. Morbius has been delayed again to April 1st, 2022 this time. So it's not too big of a push, but we will have to wait to see it. As always, we list our segment times in our episode description, so feel free to check out the show notes if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic.
And we want to give a huge shout out to Hannah, Adve, and Perry Dre. Those are the usernames of people who have left us reviews recently. Thank you guys so much for the kind words. And we also want to thank everybody who went on Spotify to rate us, because we are now at 4.9 rating. So thanks to everybody who took the time to rate us or review us. It means a lot. It's really why Jonathan and I do this, the podcast. It's for you guys, the fans.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we received any kind of reviews. The reviews that we got this time were so well worded. Thank you guys. Much appreciated. And just a quick note before we move on. I recently moved into a new house, and I'm still trying to figure out my recording setup. If you guys hear an HVAC system in the background, my deepest apologies. I'll try and get this sorted out by the next episode.
But with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize.
A No Prize is an award Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award we post on social media that Jonathan personally draws for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week.
Last week, we asked, what do you think will be the highest grossing Marvel or DC film in 2022, and why? And this was coming off of the news that Spider-Man No Way Home has become one of the highest box office earners in movie history. We have a list of honorable mentions that we would like to award before we announce the No Prize winner. Our first honorable mention goes to Miggy Mathangian, who said,
"Hey guys, this is Miggy, and I think the highest grossing DC or Marvel film in 2022 will be Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. At first I was going to go with the Batman because everybody's hyped about it, but then I remembered the first Aquaman movie made $1 billion, so I think the sequel will make around the same or more. Also, it's dropping in December, around the holiday season when a lot of people like to watch movies, and hopefully the pandemic will be over by then."
Yeah, if Spider-Man can make $1 billion in December, why can't Aquaman?
Yeah, sure, why not?
I mean, the first film made $1 billion, and it was also released in December, so that's cool.
Plus, the movie's bringing back a lot of the same cast and crew, for better or worse in regards to Amber Heard, but I don't think that'll affect the box office too much.
I never thought that Aquaman would be a movie that would gross $1 billion, in all honesty. But it was so fun and so well made. I have really high hopes for the sequel because so many people are returning. I think it'll be great.
Great answer, Miggy Mathangian. Our next honorable mention goes to Dustyn Balcom, who said,
"Hey, Dustyn Balcom here. I think that the movie that will make the most this year is Black Panther 2, just because I think a lot of people want to see how that story continues without Chadwick Boseman. The only other competitors, I think, would be Batman or Aquaman, but I don't see the Batman quite hitting anything major, just because a lot of people don't really like Robert Pattinson that much."
What?
Yeah, I mean, I know some people who still aren't sold on Robert Pattinson being Batman.
I don't see that. I mean, after these trailers, how could you not be sold on Robert Pattinson as Batman?
I don't know, his jawline is weird, yeah,
Your jawline is weird.
He looks emo when he's Bruce Wayne. It's just, I don't know.
Get the fuck out of here.
But in regards to Black Panther, I definitely think that movie's going to break $1 billion. The first movie just made so much money, well past $1 billion. And while I am curious as to whether or not the sequel will earn as much, considering that Chadwick Boseman is not involved and there is some controversy regarding actress Letitia Wright. I still think that definitely audiences will show up for the movie and it'll still easily clear that billion bar. Will it make the most, though? I say it has about a 50-50 chance.
I don't know. I actually think this is a pretty good option. I think this comes out late enough in the year. Hopefully COVID will be over and any controversy surrounding the cast will most likely be forgotten. I think this film has everything going for it.
It all depends on how well they handle the Chadwick Boseman situation.
Oh, yeah, totally. I think they could either really piss people off or get people really excited. Honestly, what would piss me off personally is if they decide to never recast T'Challa.
That would be a shame. As great as Chadwick Boseman was, he was phenomenal. I do think that the character is bigger than any one actor and that there are so many great black actors out there that could fill that role eventually down the line.
Yeah, like when Heath Ledger was replaced by Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker.
Yeah, exactly.
Our third honorable mention goes to Matt Lamb, who said,
"Hey guys, Matt Lamb here. I think the film that's going to gross the most this year is going to be Matt Reeves' The Batman. With it being a Batman that we have not seen on the big screen so far, I think is going to draw a lot more people to it. I think it's also going to be a sleeper film, like how the Joker was. And I think it's going to be the one that's going to do the best this year."
Yeah, so far everyone has been mentioning the Batman. The trailers make the movie look like it's going to be amazing. And let's be real, like almost everyone is a Batman fan. Like even Marvel fans are Batman fans. How could you not be excited for this movie?
I'm not a Batman fan.
Get the fuck out of my face.
Personally, I actually think that Batman is going to fall below expectations because I think people just aren't really into the dark and gritty thing anymore. They're more on board with the Marvel formula. I think Aquaman is going to outperform the Batman. That's my prediction for 2022.
I was about to disagree with you, but then I'm looking at these release dates. I do feel like more people will be more inclined to go to the movie theater in December than in March. So I don't want to disagree with you, but also you're a bastard for saying it.
Great answer, Matt Lamb. We want to give a special shout out to Benjamin Alvis and Chumno for leaving their answers on our website by clicking that record button, taking the time to do that. We appreciate you guys, and you gave great answers. But the winner of this week's Snow Prize goes to David Park, who said,
"Hey guys, in my opinion, the highest grossing film, it's really a battle between Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, and Batman. It could be either two, but I think Batman, for now, might be the highest grossing film just because of the marketing and how popular the character of Batman is, and just how good the movie looks, just in my opinion. But, I mean, it could either be two, but for now I'm thinking the Batman, yeah."
And this answer gets the no prize because it has sparked our annual wager. What movie will win the highest box office gross? The Batman or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness?
I say the Batman.
I say Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
What did we say for last year? What was last year's wager?
It was definitely Spider-Man was my pick. So you owe me money.
Okay.
And you're going to owe me money this year when Doctor Strange outperforms the Batman, which it's going to do. You know why? Because Marvel's riding on that multiversal wave right now. Doctor Strange has gotten a huge bump not only from the Avengers movies, but also from guest starring in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah, but it's the Batman. It's the goddamn Batman.
I don't think that argument's going to hold up this time.
It's the only argument you need.
And what are we betting this time? If I win, you have to say live on the air that Batman's a piece of shit.
No, I don't agree to those terms.
Oh, so basically you're not confident that the Batman movie's going to gross more then? Okay, scaredy cat.
Okay, well, if I win, then you have to say Captain America is America's asshole.
Well, I'm fine with that. Sure.
All right.
Bet. Thanks, David Park, for keeping that going. Hopefully we actually remember to follow through.
And congrats for winning the No Prize. If you, the listener, want a shot at winning your own No Prize, stay tuned to later on this episode when we'll be asking another question of the week.
And now that that's done,
on to the news.
All right, this past week we learned that yet again the Morbius film has been pushed back. It was supposed to come out on January 28th this month, but it's now been pushed back to April 1st. This is the most pushed back Marvel film ever, more than The New Mutants, because initially this movie was supposed to come out on July 10th, then it was pushed to July 31st, March 19th, October 8th, January 21st, January 28th, and now April 1st. It's like a bad April Fool's joke.
And it's like, for a movie that no one wants to see, it's like, just how about you don't release it?
I mean, I want to see it. I'm not the biggest Jared Leto fan, honestly. He is definitely the biggest detractor to my interest in this film. But I do like the character of Morbius, you know? I think he has a great backstory. He's a really tragic, tortured character. Hopefully this movie does him justice. And if it does, it could be a great addition to the Sony Spider-Man universe. Who's to say why they pushed the movie back? A lot of people think that it's because of the Omicron variant of COVID. Some people are saying it's more of a financial reason.
Yeah, insiders are saying it's because Spider-Man No Way Home overperformed, and Sony doesn't want to release two big comic book films in the same quarter, same financial quarter.
Even though Spider-Man No Way Home came out in Q4 last year.
Well, the movie's still making money, Q1. So they're pushing Morbius to the first day of Q2, just to balance out the earnings.
I mean, that's a really lame reason, but I could see how that could be true.
Just follow the money.
Just when I thought I was done saying the phrase, just when I thought there couldn't be more COVID delays, I was wrong. Again.
Yeah.
If it is, in fact, due to COVID. But hopefully there are no more delays. Hopefully after this point, we get a standard release schedule. Or maybe, movies getting pushed back will just be a fact of life from here on out.
I feel like by this point, there's no way that they're going to factor in any kind of multiverse into Morbius, right? Like, Andrew Garfield isn't going to appear suddenly.
I mean, people say that as a rumor, but a lot of people are on the Andrew Garfield bandwagon, make Amazing Spider-Man 3, which I don't agree with. As great as Andrew Garfield is, I'd rather see Tom Holland in another Spider-Man movie before I see The Amazing Spider-Man 3, because I just don't trust Sony to make a good Spider-Man film.
Yeah, we'll see how they do with Morbius. I kind of feel like this movie's been delayed so much that there's no possible way that they expect Morbius to do, good money, even off of the hype of Spider-Man No Way Home, because interest has just waned.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, look what happened with New Mutants. But either way, that brings us to our question of the week.
What do you think will be the lowest grossing Marvel or DC film in 2022? And why?
We flipped it on you. Last week was the highest grossing. This week, we're asking you about the lowest grossing. What will be the box office bomb out of all the Marvel and DC movies coming out in 2022?
Record your answer at dynamicduel.com by clicking on the red microphone button in the bottom right-hand corner, which will prompt you to leave us a voicemail. Your message could be up to 30 seconds long, and don't forget to leave your name in case we include you on the podcast. We'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to social media. Be sure to answer before January 15th. But that does it for the news for this episode. Now let's move on to the main event, where we pit the DC mystery hero, The Question, against Marvel's villain-turned-hero, Echo. Okay, Question versus Echo. This episode, of course, was inspired by last week's review of Hawkeye Season 1 on Disney+. Initially, this episode was going to be Swordsman versus Warlord, but we figured that Echo had a much bigger presence in Hawkeye than Swordsman, and therefore more people would be interested in learning about her. And we determined that The Question is probably more well-known than Warlord, considering Renee Montoya, one of the characters who has taken on the mantle of The Question, appeared in the film Birds of Prey.
And she was in The Dark Knight too, right?
No, that was Ramirez.
Oh, well, never mind.
But yeah, I always thought that should have been Montoya. I don't know why they didn't do that. Renee Montoya is in Batwoman, and I believe she will appear as The Question down the line on that show, if she hasn't already.
Oh, interesting. That's cool. The characters are relatively powerless. Echo does have photographic reflexes like Taskmaster, and The Question does have some trickery up her sleeve, up his sleeve, and I think it'll be a pretty good matchup. So let's go ahead and see who will win.
If you've never listened to one of our Duel episodes before, the way we determine a winner between these two characters is by running 1,000 Monte Carlo simulations using their statistics. Now, a Monte Carlo simulation is a probabilistic model used to determine outcomes through random sampling.
And in our case, it randomizes statistics along a normal distribution, which is a bell curve as a way to simulate the many variables that can occur during battle. The stat parameters we use are based on the official Marvel Power Grid, and we use that criteria to extrapolate the DC character stats. We've included some additional stat categories of our own, such as range, damage potential, versatility, and perception in order to create a more complete and robust simulation.
Running these 1000 simulations gives us a percentage of wins for each character, and we declare the one with the higher percentage to be the ultimate victor, considering that they're more likely to win any given battle. No character ever wins 100% of the time. Comics have shown that there's always a way for Batman to defeat Superman. We feel our method falls in line with the precedents that have been established in the comic book stories.
And we use this method because it was the least subjective, most unbiased way to determine who would win. Of course, Jonathan and I are both heavily biased toward our respective allegiances, and instead of debating these matches forever, we just let the math decide for us. So there's no fan votes here, and no relying on just feats.
Before we run the simulations, though, we like to break down each character's histories and abilities before improvising a scenario on how we imagine one of the 1000 simulations we run would play out beat for beat. Now, it's been a while since we've done a Duel episode. The last one was Vixen vs. Kraven, but I think it's your turn to go first with the character's backstory.
Yeah, let me go ahead and tell you all about Echo. Now, Maya Lopez was born to William Lincoln of the Cheyenne Nation and a woman, last name Lopez, who presumably died during childbirth. William raised young Maya in New York City, working as a mob enforcer for the Kingpin under the nickname Crazy Horse. Though William and Kingpin were seemingly good friends, the enforcer soon outlived his purpose, and Kingpin decided to kill him. Young Maya discovered her father bleeding out and dying on the floor. As William reached out to her in his last moments, he left a bloody handprint on her face and died in her arms. Before being shot, William asked Kingpin to take care of his daughter, and the criminal took in Maya and raised her as his own, with Maya never learning the truth about who killed her father. You can learn more about Kingpin in our Duel episode where he fought the Penguin. Maya was born deaf, so Kingpin placed her in a school for kids with special needs. However, her observational and lip-reading skills made it hardly a handicap. When she one day duplicated a piano recital she witnessed from memory, Kingpin took an interest in her and placed her in a school for prodigies. There, Maya excelled in art and dance, becoming an Olympic-level athlete. Though she grew up successful and in luxury, she never forgot about her father and the vengeance she craved for his murder. Using this to his advantage, Kingpin secretly arranged for Maya to meet Matt Murdock, whom Kingpin knew was the blind vigilante hero Daredevil, whom you can learn more about in our Nightwing vs. Daredevil duel. Maya and Matt fell in love, and Kingpin then falsely revealed to her that Daredevil was the one who killed her father. Set on revenge, Maya adorned her face with war paint in the form of her father's handprint and adopted the moniker Echo, based on her ability to recreate any physical activity she observed. She mercilessly attacked Daredevil, who recognized her through her scent as his lover Maya and refused to fight back as she nearly beat him to death. However, Maya realized that Daredevil was Matt before finishing him off and discerned that he was too young to be her father's killer. She discovered that Kingpin had manipulated her all these years, and she shot him in the face in an attempt to kill him, though the incident only served to blind Kingpin. Unsure what to do next in life, she traveled the world, and during a spiritual vision quest, she ended up meeting Wolverine, who told her about his time in Japan and his knowledge of the country's culture and crime. Maya traveled back to New York City and brought her story to the theater in a performance piece called Parts of a Whole that used sign language, dance, and music. Though Daredevil had moved on romantically, he went as Matt Murdock to see her perform. Due to her physical abilities, he recommended Maya to the Avengers when they reformed after being disbanded by a crazed Scarlet Witch, which you can learn more about in our Justice League vs. Avengers Duel episode. Maya hid her identity from the Avengers team and adopted the moniker of Ronin, a mantle that would have a long legacy carried by other heroes such as Hawkeye, Blade, Red Guardian, Moon Knight, and Black Panther when they operated covertly. She helped the Avengers bring down a merger of the Hydra criminal organization and the Hand Ninja clan. After moving to Japan to keep tabs on the Hand, the assassin Elektra killed Maya in a fight. The Hand resurrected Maya and brainwashed her into attacking the new Avengers. However, Doctor Strange cured her, and Maya retaliated by killing Elektra and revealing that Elektra was merely a Skrull imposter during that alien race's secret invasion of Earth.
Whoa.
You can learn more about that in our Katana vs. Elektra episode. Maya was also the first to discover that Spider-Woman was a Skrull helping with the invasion, so she was pivotal in Earth's defense during that time. She later moved to Los Angeles, where she went undercover as a stripper and teamed up with Moon Knight to discover who LA's kingpin of crime was and helped him defeat Count Nefaria. Back in New York City, she helped former romantic partner Daredevil stop the villain Claw from using sound to infect the city's population. Recently, in a comics event known as Enter the Phoenix, Maya was one of the many heroes the Phoenix Force chose to fight in a tournament for the right to be its new host, including Shang-Chi, Black Knight, Wolverine, Man-Thing, Captain America, She-Hulk, the Submariner, and Howard the Duck, among others. Though the Submariner defeated Maya in the first round, the Phoenix Force was drawn to Maya's suffering and eventually resurrected her as its new host. Now wielding the power of the Phoenix, Maya declared herself the new Thunderbird. Looking for help controlling her new powers, Maya journeyed to the Cheyenne Reservation, where she learned that a demon was targeting her ancestors in the past to destroy her present. The demon, known as the Adversary, was a longtime antagonist to fellow Cheyenne warrior Forge, a mutant you can learn more about in our Mr. Terrific vs. Forge duel. Using a spiritual guide through time to meet her ancestors, Maya learned to embrace the Phoenix Force and was able to stop the Adversary and save her present. Powers-wise, prior to her newly acquired Phoenix Force, which I'm not sure will stick, Echo has the ability of photographic reflexes similar to Taskmaster, whom you can learn more about in our Prometheus vs. Taskmaster duel. This allows her to perfectly duplicate any physical action she observes using her muscle memory. Therefore, she can mimic the fighting styles, weapon skills, and athletic skills of those she witnesses, but it also lets her effectively predict her opponent's actions. Though it appears that she doesn't suffer from memory loss like Taskmaster, perhaps due to having a more selective or limited library of fighting skills. She's a skilled markswoman, having witnessed characters like Bullseye and Hawkeye, and wields a pair of handguns, billy clubs, and throwing stars. Echo is also a skilled acrobat, dancer, and pianist. She is deaf, however, and must rely on visual cues when fighting, as she cannot hear her opponent. And that's Echo.
Wait, she carries guns and weapons?
Yeah, she carries a pair of golden handguns.
Shit. The question does not. But you know what? The question goes up against armed people all the time, not even worried about it. Let me tell you why as I get into the question's backstory. Vic Sage, the man who originally took on the identity of the mysterious vigilante known as the Question, was created in 1967 by Steve Ditko for Charlton Comics. The Question, like Ditko, adhered to an objectivist philosophy, believing in a moral absolutism that would see justice done by an equal application of rigid, black and white objective ethical standards. The character, along with Charlton Comics' other superhero characters, was sold to DC Comics in 1983, and he first appeared in DC during the Crisis on Infinite Earths event a couple of years later. Vic Sage was born with the name Charles Victor Saz. He was left on the steps of a Catholic church as a baby and was raised in an orphanage by nuns who found him.
Isn't there a Batman villain called Victor Zsasz?
Yeah, the serial killer. The Question is not to be confused with Victor Zsasz. The Question is Victor Saz, and he was around before Zaz. Growing up, he showed violent tendencies that continued even into college, where he once beat up a drug dealer to near death in response to a bad LSD trip.
Whoa.
Inquisitive by nature, he studied journalism alongside Lois Lane. After graduating, he changed his name to Vic Sage and became a hard-hitting and outspoken investigative journalist in Hub City, the one city in America possibly more corrupt and crime-ridden than Gotham. His conspiratorial and aggressive approach to journalism caused him to rise in popularity, and he was given his own television series, with which he attempted to expose and discredit criminals throughout the city. Vic made many enemies, however, and many doors were closed to him, threatening his aspirations and reputation. That was until one of Vic's old science professors and mentor, Aristotle Rodar, informed Vic that a man named Dr. R.B. Twain was going to sell a medical invention known as pseudoderm to third world countries. Pseudoderm was a synthetic skin that Rodar and Twain co-developed as a bandage that would bond to skin using a specific gas. The pseudoderm proved to be toxic to open wounds, however, and the project was supposed to be shut down. With Rodar's support, Vic used a mask made of pseudoderm to hide his facial features and identity to get close enough to stop Twain's illegal activities, which he later exposed on his show. Vic continued to use the pseudoderm and bonding gas, which also changed the color of his chemically treated clothing and hair, in order to stop the corruption he reported on without exposing his identity or his vigilante activities. As the Question, Vic was able to get answers he wouldn't have otherwise been able to get as a public figure. Vic's popularity increased and his show was moved to Chicago, though his sense of justice couldn't keep him away from Hub City for long. Upon his return, Vic's enemies hired the assassin Lady Shiva to kill him. And you can learn more about her in our Lady Shiva vs. Shang-Chi Duel episode. Learning of Vic's dual identities and wanting to shatter his worldview, Shiva annihilated him in combat, but faked his death, and after his wounds finally healed, Shiva set Vic on a path to find Richard Dragon, her old martial arts partner. After studying martial arts and Eastern philosophy for years under Dragon, Vic returned to Hub City with a new philosophical framework and moral perspective. With the desire to end the city's political and government corruption, Vic, as the Question, helped Mira Furman, his good-hearted ex-girlfriend, rise in the city's political ranks. When Mira was elected mayor, her husband Wesley shot her, accusing her of being a communist. Mira, who as mayor was the head of both the government and the police force, was put into a coma, and for a time, the Question was the city's sole enforcer of justice. Gang warfare broke out across the city, causing Lady Shiva to return, first to take advantage of the chaos, but later as an ally to the Question. Even after Mira woke up from her coma and returned to her role as mayor, the societal collapse of the city continued to fester. During a hallucinogenic trip, the Question decided it was time to leave the city, as his violent tendencies had returned and were getting worse. Mira decided to stay behind to help the people, but asked Vic to take her mentally handicapped daughter Jackie with him, which he did. Vic brought Jackie with him to South America, where he attempted to give up the identity of the Question, but was ultimately drawn into a drug war and he killed for the first time. When Jackie fell ill, Vic returned her to Hub City for medical care, but she ultimately died. Torn by Jackie's death, Vic began practicing urban shamanism and added a hallucinogenic component to the bonding gas he used. With it, he would go into a trance that allowed him to, quote-unquote, talk to cities and see spiritual energy. He operated in Metropolis for a time, where he pieced together a clandestine plot by Lex Luthor to assassinate Superman. After helping the Huntress overcome similar anger issues that he suffered from and drove him to violent tendencies in the past, Vic learned that he had lung cancer and began training former Gotham City police detective Renee Montoya, passing on his skills to her. Renee Montoya was the daughter of immigrants from the Dominican Republic, who raised her and her brother in Gotham City. After her brother was stabbed during a gang conflict, she took an interest in criminal justice and graduated from the police academy at the top of her class. It wasn't long before she was promoted to detective and became a member of GCPD's Major Crimes Unit. During the No Man's Land event, when Gotham was devastated by an earthquake, she and her partner Harvey Bullock remained behind with Commissioner Gordon to help maintain order. It was during this time that Two-Face, who you can learn more about in our Two-Face vs. Jigsaw episode, took a romantic interest in Renee, and when Gotham was restored, Two-Face would later out Renee as a lesbian and frame her for murder, believing that he could only have her if he took everything away from her. After being kidnapped by Two-Face and rescued by Batman, Renee's personal life continued its downward spiral, as she was disowned by her parents for her sexual orientation, and her new partner, Crispus Allen, was murdered by a corrupt cop. When Renee tried to kill her partner's killer, she found herself unable to pull the trigger and resigned from the GCPD the next day. Renee became an alcoholic, and as a result, her longtime girlfriend broke up with her. It was during her lowest moment that the Question arrived and recruited her to help him bring down Intergang, alongside Batwoman, who you can learn more about in our Batwoman vs. Black Cat episode. After their successful mission, Vic Sage and Renee traveled to Nanda Parbat so Renee could train under Richard Dragon. After her training, Renee and Vic returned to Gotham City, where Vic began to succumb to his cancer. Renee attempted to get Vic back to Nanda Parbat, but he died along the journey. His final words were a question, asking Renee who she would become. Upon his death, Renee decided she would take up his mantle as the next Question. Often teaming up with Batwoman, Renee later moved in with Vic's former mentor, Aristotle Rodar, and together they solved mysteries and investigated questions no one else could answer. In post-Flashpoint continuity, the Question was initially shown to be an ancient being, one of the Trinity of Sin alongside Pandora and Judas Iscariot, though his identity remained a mystery. That version has largely been ignored since the Rebirth event restored pre-Flashpoint continuity, however, and both Vic Sage and Renee Montoya have appeared as the Question.
So they're working together as like partners now? Or they're operating independently?
They chat occasionally, they're friends, but mostly they operate independently.
Okay. So again, which version of the Question are you going with for this duel?
That is the Question. Now, the Question has no superhuman powers, but they are in peak human physical condition and possess unparalleled levels of deduction, often observing connections that no other detectives on the planet can make, thanks in part to their mastery of philosophical thought. They are also both master martial artists, both having trained under Richard Dragon, one of the best martial artists on the planet. The pseudoderm mask they wear is completely breathable and see-through from their perspective. The bonding gas they use to apply their mask is often used for stealth and intimidation, but it also has hallucinogenic properties that allow them to attain a higher level of observation, aiding them in their deduction.
So they're like high when they're fighting crime?
Yes? They're like hyper aware. You ever see the movie Limitless?
No.
Oh, okay. Any listener who has seen Limitless, which is a great movie, knows what I'm talking about. I'm not committing to either Vic Sage or Renee Montoya in this match. I think both of them, deserve the mantle of the Question, and I think they're both equals. The mask that they both wear is meant to hide their identity anyway, so whoever you want to be under the mask is under the mask for this match.
Sounds good to me. So now that we got their histories and abilities out of the way, let's speculate on how one of the 1,000 simulated matches will go. The winner is determined by simulations, not the speculation, but it's fun to imagine how this fight could play out.
We don't set any rules for this match, other than the characters don't know anything about each other going in, except that the other character is a threat that needs to be put down. And we say that they start off about 50 meters apart in an environment that has no bearing on the match itself, because we don't take stats for the environment.
Plus, certain characters have advantages in some environments over others, and we want these characters to win on their own merit. So let's get into it. The Question and Echo meet on the battlefield. Who goes first? All right, well, Echo actually has range. She has guns and throwing stars. So I'm going to say that she's going to start off first by brandishing her dual pistols, and she's just going to unload on the Question. Just brat, brat. And the Question dies. That's it.
What?
Match over. She has guns. What is the Question going to do?
I mean, once the Question sees those pistols, the Question's gonna reach for their belt, which emits a cloud of the bonding gas that fills the environment and not only prevents Echo from seeing her target, but also enhances the Question's perception through the gas's hallucinogenic properties. So they see the bullets whiz by them like bullet time in the Matrix.
Oh, like the ripples, the trails and stuff?
Yeah.
And they're like, dude.
Maybe, kinda. They're not that high.
Well, okay, so Maya can't see through this bonding gas, so she's going to save her bullets by holstering her guns, and she's going to pull out her billy clubs, and she's going to hold her breath and walk into the gas in this defensive stance, just ready to strike out at anything she sees. And, she can hold her breath for a good while because she's an Olympic-level athlete with an Olympic-level lung capacity.
What?
Yeah, she was actually in the Olympics, but she's gonna spot the Question's fedora move in the smoke, and she's gonna hurl her billy club, just knocking the Question right in the face.
Okay, but that hat was just a hat. The Question tossed it to fool Echo, and Echo reacted too quickly to realize that the Question wasn't underneath it. The real Question surprises Echo from behind with a dragon kick, right to her spine. Boom, paralyzed.
No. Echo's flexible and graceful. She's going to tumble to the ground and roll out of it. And by this time, the gas is dissipated, so, she could breathe again. And Echo rolls into a crouching position where she hurls out a bunch of throwing stars. And she's a good marksman, so one of these sticks right into Question's chest.
Dang. Okay, so the Question is going to pull out the throwing star from their chest and then just hurl that thing right back at Echo, because the Question is trained in weapons as well.
There's no way Echo would ever get hurt by that. She would see it coming from a mile away, and she just dodges. Easy. And meanwhile, the Question is bleeding out from the chest.
Well, no, because the Question keeps, a collection of business cards in their breast pocket. So that's actually what the throwing star got lodged into. So the question, they just pull out the business cards.
Does the question carry business cards?
Yes. Yeah. They have like question marks on them with invisible ink.
That's stupid. Okay.
But the question is going to spray the business cards toward Echo like a game of 52 pickup to distract her from the question's follow-up move, which is the slide tackle.
Again, Echo is too observant and visually cued in to be distracted by a bunch of fucking pieces of paper. So when the question comes in with a slide tackle, they just get a savage billy club beat down. Just whap, whap, whap. Like right in their knee and the stomach and their face. They fucked up.
By this point, the question is deduced that Echo is deaf. Because they're...
How did they figure that out?
They think on a higher plane, man. So as they're like sparring back and forth, the question is going to yank off their tie and then use it to block like any more billy club attacks from Echo and bind Echo's hands. With Echo's hands tied, the question just finger pokes one of her eyes, blinding it and further dulling her senses.
You can't do that.
Why?
What is this, the Three Stooges?
That's yeah.
Okay, so Echo has one of her eyes poked. She's pissed off, but she's gonna echo that eye poking attack by finger poking the question right in the eye. And now they're partially blinded.
No, she can't see the question's eyes, okay? So she misses.
She knows generally where the eyeball is through the mask.
No, there's nothing there. Nothing there. And because Echo pokes the question's eyebrow instead of her eye, that's gonna give the question the opportunity to grab Echo's finger and just like bend it all the way back, just breaking it.
Shit.
Like Rorschach, who was inspired by the question. I don't think I've said that yet.
Right. So Echo's finger's broken, one of her eyes doesn't work, she's enraged, she's in pain, so she's just gonna straight up retaliate by kneeing the question right in the groin, causing them to double over and fall onto the ground in pain.
I'm sorry, I didn't clarify this. I should have said that this was Renee Montoya in the matchup, and she has no balls, so...
That doesn't matter. This was a hard enough knee strike to bust some balls and some ovaries. She just got all up in that pelvic cavity. So the question is in the fetal position on the ground going, oh. And that's when Echo pulls out her twin pistols again and just unloads the rest of her clips right into their body, ending this match.
Except that the hallucinogenic properties of the question's bonding gas caused Echo to start tripping balls since the beginning of this match. In reality...
No. She held her breath.
No, she only thought she did. In reality, it's Echo who's in a fetal position just freaking out. And the question like simply snaps her neck to put her out of her misery.
Well, how come the question gets limitless powers when they inhale the gas, but freaking Echo just trips balls?
Because Echo's not used to it. She's a lightweight. Don't do drugs, kids.
No, I disagree. I think that she held her breath, she freaking busted some ovaries and balls, and shot the question to death. We could leave the match there. Either that happened, or it was all just some drug-fueled dream. We'll go ahead and input their stats, run the simulations, and find out who won.
Be right back.
All right, great matchup. These guys are very close. Even though Echo has some weapons that gives her range, the question also has some tricks up their sleeve. Let's go ahead and go through the stat breakdown.
Yeah, when it came to the physicals, they're both peak humans. We did say that the question was smarter than Echo overall, and slightly more evasive thanks to the smoke.
Right, it adds an element of stealth that Echo doesn't have.
Exactly.
However, we did say that Echo can inflict more damage given that, she carries pistols, and because of that, she also has a greater range.
Surprisingly, they were even when it came to perception. I thought the question was going to have an edge on that, but Echo's deafness really isn't a disability.
No, and in fact, she's actually more perceptive than your average person.
Right, like Cassandra Cain.
Yeah, exactly. So given the similarity in the character's stats and the kind of back and forth that they have, what's your guess on who's going to win this match?
I think it's going to be really, really close. I actually don't know who's going to win, but I'm hoping it's the question. The two characters, like we said, are kind of tit for tat, so it's got to be close. And our Instagram poll was really close. 52% of our followers chose Echo to be the winner, which, I mean, I'm not surprised. We're coming right off of the Hawkeye show. Of course, Echo is more popular right now.
Do you think the question is not popular?
I actually think the question is more popular, but again, Echo is probably top of people's minds.
That's true. I'm not sure how many people outside of the comic fans actually knew who Echo was prior to the Hawkeye series. You might be right there. But then again, how many people knew who Question was? I don't think a lot of people knew that Renee Montoya is the Question. I'm guessing outside of the comic fandom, only the people who saw the Justice League cartoon know who the Question is.
That's probably fair. In all honesty, between Renee Montoya and the Question, Renee Montoya is probably more popular, just as herself, sans the Question identity.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, let me go ahead and tell you who the winner is. Between the Question and Echo, the character that came out on top was Echo.
Damn it!
Really close, just like you said. Echo won 512 matches out of the 1,000 simulations, so it was just 51.2% to the Question's 488 wins, or 48.8%.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. We need another stat category for style, because the Question looks dope AF.
No, dude, Echo is really badass looking in the comics. She has like the warrior paint handprint on her face. She has those like Cheyenne feathers. She looks really cool. I think she's the coolest looking Native American character that Marvel has.
Dude, cooler than a faceless person wearing like a trench coat and fedora surrounded in smoke? No.
Yes.
You don't know what you're talking about. Okay, who would you rather cosplay as? Exactly.
I'd probably go as a gender-swapped version of Echo. I think that might be sweet. I don't know if people would know who I was, but...
Yeah, probably not.
But yeah, between that or the Question, I'll go gender-swapped Echo. That's my answer.
Ugh.
And when people see me, they're going to be like, hey, you're the dude version of the character that beat the Question like a little weakling.
I'm sorry, this match was way too close for you to say that, though. Like, as always, Marvel just wins by the skin of their teeth. It's luck. When DC wins, we annihilate Marvel.
That's not even true, and even if it was, it's because DC's overpowered because the characters are lame and not realistic or relatable.
Actually, the Question is probably more realistic than Echo, so...
Yeah, that's true. Touche, good sir.
That does it for this duel. Let us know what you thought about the results by writing to us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com or by visiting us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can find links to all of our accounts by checking out our show notes or visiting our website, dynamicduel.com.
And on our site, you could also find a link to our Patreon page where we offer bonus content, including bonus episodes and duels, monthly live movie watch-alongs, collectible pin sets, and access to our Discord server. Check it out right after this episode. Our lowest tier is only $2 a month.
In our next episode, somewhat in lead up to the Catwoman Hunted animated film review that we'll be doing in February, we are going to review The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, I thought you were going to say we were going to review Catwoman.
Hell no. Never. I'll say it again. When we review Catwoman, that is the last episode of this podcast.
We got to go out on something better than that, is all I'll say. But no, yeah, The Dark Knight Rises is a solid film to be reviewing. I think I've only seen the movie once, so I'll be interested in seeing it again and seeing if my thoughts on it have changed at all. So join us next week for that. And that does it for this episode. We want to give a big thanks to our executive producers, John Speas, Ken Johnson, Jace Crump, John Starosky, Zachary Hepburn, John Bechinina, Mitchell Phipps, Dustyn Balcom, Salvador Hernandez-Contreras Jr., and Levi Yeaton for helping make this podcast possible. Thanks, guys. And we'll talk to you all next week.
Up, and away.
True believers.